We're so excited to be here today with Anthony Grafton, the outgoing past president of the AHA. Thanks so much for joining us today.
Oh, well, thank you for having me. It's a pleasure.
So far, your thoughts on how the conference is going?
I'm very pleased with it, and what I'm really pleased with is I keep hearing talk about the sessions. So it's not just that I think the sessions are going well, but people are volunteering that they found the session on entrepreneurial history very exciting. I've already heard a lot of talk about last night's plenary session, and if people are going on talking about it, then the conference is really working. You really feel as if all the organizational work paid off.
Anything in particular that you're most looking forward to at the conference?
Well, I'm still working on a project that I began with the executive director, Jim Grossman, to think about historians who wind up working outside the academy and think about graduate training and whether it should be more responsive to the fact that a lot of our PhDs and a lot of our ABDs, as we used to call them, wind up outside the academy. We've got a lot of sessions about that. The professional division under Jackie Jones of the University of Texas has organized a whole kind of mini conference around these issues. The entrepreneurial history session was the first one, so I'm very excited to see how those go.
And one of your major interests has been bringing history into really every form of digital media. How is that progressing, and how is the industry progressing overall?
Well, on the one hand, in the conference, this has progressed tremendously. Last year was the first year that we had a full array of sessions on digital history, and this year there might be 2 to 3 times as many. So the AHA has officially recognized the vital importance of digital media and digital forms of scholarship, and we're beginning to talk about the way that in digital history, old divisions don't exist anymore. For example, the division between scholarship and teaching is really hard to maintain with digital history, or the division between providing scholarly materials and interpreting them. Those divisions become much harder to maintain in the digital world, and we're now talking about that. The AHA is going to move forward with a task force on assessing digital scholarship for promotion and tenure, because this is an area where most departments still feel very uncomfortable, and where junior faculty who are the most conversant with the new technologies are often warned that they should stay away from digital projects until they have tenure. And we don't think this is the best way to get the most exciting digital scholarship. We want to get early career people in the early career. To do that, we have to convince departments that there are ways of assessing this material and deciding that it's work of high quality and originality. And the AHA is very invested in this. So I think we're tremendously interested as an organization. I think my successor as president, Bill Cronin, who's much more engaged and conversant than I am with actual digital media, has really pushed this. And I think this is now embedded in the structure of the AHA as it wasn't before.
You've talked in the past a lot about historians needing to think about careers in a different way. How do you see the field changing, and where are the opportunities?
Well, the field has changed radically. I tell young people now, my own undergraduates who are interested in graduate school, that I can't tell them anything about what their careers are going to be like because my own experience is just irrelevant. Mm-hmm. And even for people who leave the academy, in my generation, most of the people I knew who left went into journalism, editing, other fields which are also engaged in the middle of a crisis and in which there are also fewer opportunities than there were. So I can't really counsel them. I do think that there will be more public history opportunities. And I'm thinking eventually public history will move towards being a field with more PhDs in it. It's been in the actual practice of public history is an MA field at the moment in most historical societies, museums, and so on. But I suspect that as public history programs become more entrenched and as major departments create public history tracks, we'll see more of a move towards people with the PhD in public history as well as teaching public history. And I think that's a good thing. Though public historians do fantastic work, it can't hurt to have more intense and deeper training as part of the field. So I'm thinking public history, I'm thinking for-profit public history done on contract is a growth field. There are a lot of PhDs and MAs with very good training engaged in that now. And I suspect that there will be more of that over time. Because this goes with the predicted growth in tourism. If you go to the Department of Labor, they're expecting tourism to be an area that continues to grow and generate jobs. And one of the things you have to provide for tourists are historical sites that are well explicated and well laid out. So I'm not looking for huge, I'm not looking for a gold rush. I don't think in any of the areas historians work, but I do think we're going to see more opportunities of those kinds. One area that I would love to see developed is the teaching of history, especially in secondary schools. Once again, in much of the world, it's normal for secondary school liberal arts teachers to have doctorates in the disciplines. We don't in America, and that's actually a historical peculiarity of American secondary education. And I would love to see more people thinking about secondary education as a career, and more people with a full historical research training going into secondary school teaching and bringing their mastery of the subject and their mastery of the field into the secondary school classroom. I speak as the father of a secondary school history teacher who doesn't have a PhD but does have a research MA as well as an MA in teaching, and she's finding such rich rewards in teaching history at that level that it just inspires me. And I do find myself thinking that this is an area which we should be thinking about. The profession of history should never have become as decoupled from the school teaching of history as it has. And I'm hoping that we can repair that, and that once again this will be an area where more of our people will find rewarding and solid employment.
And finally, I have to ask you, proudest accomplishments over the past year?
I have two really proud accomplishments. One is that I tried and I think was able to succeed in part in creating a new model for the president's communication with the membership and others, which was more dialogical and involved writing provocative things, getting responses, and then discussing with the people who made the responses and really trying to engage them and talk about them. One of the sharpest negative responses one of my columns received came from two brilliant young computer scientists at Harvard, and my response was to invite them to do a plenary session at the 2012 AHA, which they did to a full house. So I think that's really one thing, that trying to get more voices, trying to use my bully pulpit to get more voices rather than to blather. I do feel very proud about that. The other thing I really do feel proud of is getting a public discussion going about employment. Our departments are not employment agencies, but they are training people for a professional life, and we've been doing that without adequately keeping track of the kinds of employment our students actually find, without thinking in most cases about whether the training we're offering fits even the academic world that those who get academic jobs are going to go into. And I don't think we've achieved much practical as yet, but we have a conversation going, and that I think is a good beginning.
All right, Mr. Anthony Grafton, thank you so much.
Thank you so much for having me.